Welcome to the International Classroom, a podcast for educators living and working in the United Arab Emirates. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the benefits and challenges of teaching in the UAE. Dubai is a rapidly growing and dynamic city with a diverse student population and a range of professional development opportunities for teachers. However, living and working in Dubai also comes with its own set of challenges, including cultural differences, language barriers, and the heat and humidity. In this episode, we'll explore both the benefits and challenges of teaching in Dubai and share our own experiences and insights from working in this vibrant and globalised city. So, if you're a teacher in Dubai, or if you're considering teaching in this exciting city, this episode is for you. Tune in as we delve into the unique opportunities and challenges of teaching in Dubai and offer practical tips for success in the classroom and beyond. Let's get started. So, new year, new gear. That's kind of the way I've been seeing it at the moment in terms of a new year, new gear, because we're still, it's the 8th. So we've just kind of gone over the first week.
8th of January, 2023.
And here we are, first episode of the International Classroom.
Loads of new gear, loads of new equipment.
So welcome to you who are hopefully joining me on this one for the very first episode. My name is Alex Gray. I think from a sense of this, some of you, if you're watching this, may already know me from my YouTube channel, Deep Teaching. I am a head of science at a British international school here in Dubai, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Drew Owen.
Hello, yes, I am also a teacher at an international British school in Dubai. I'm head of humanities. We actually work at different schools though. So I used to work with Alex.
We used to work together, didn't we?
We worked in the same school. It's fantastic. Just seeing his beautiful long locks every day was wonderful. And now we don't work in the same school. And we just catch up to talk about things that are going on in our respective schools. And
yeah. Well, this week's been an interesting week, first week back. I know what's been the biggest buzz for me in teaching this first week back, but what about yourself? What have you found has been like the go-to thing educators are talking about at the moment this week?
It's got to be AI.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Everyone this week is talking about, I mean, even the teachers that we're in a shared WhatsApp group with and outside of that, we're all buzzing about AI. Yeah,
found everyone's sending through, aren't they, those screen recordings of what would happen if I asked it to do this. It's buzzing Twitter.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff on there, LinkedIn.
I've seen some stuff that's, how could I hack the Pentagon? It's giving advice on all sorts.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's kind of the best time of year now, isn't it? This January time that we're in. It's recruitment season. You're busy with recruitment as well, aren't you?
Very much so. We've been interviewing all week last week. We did a big recruitment drive just before the winter break to try and make sure that we got the right candidates before everybody gets snapped up.
Yeah.
And we've spent this week, next week, and the week after we will be interviewing, because our school is growing. My school is growing massively, so we're recruiting for every position.
Yeah. So what are you finding in terms of from other people's perspectives? What are you thinking? Why do people want to move to Dubai?
It's a lot about the city. It's a very, for lack of a better term, famous city. Where are you going on holiday? Oh, I'm going to Dubai. It seems very. It's like one of the here and now places. I think it's kind of overtaking New York and Paris as the go-to buzz cities, and is very much becoming that where do you live? I live in Dubai. Yeah. Oh,
that's it. I remember because we've been out in Dubai about the same amount of time. I went 8 years. 8 years teaching it, and for me, that I worked this out today when I was thinking about it. That's almost half of my teaching career. I think 2006 I started teaching.
It's 80% of my teaching career.
So I think we're kind of well placed then to discuss this, because most people, there's two reasons why people move. When we were there, it was money and it was the weather.
I've heard it expressed as 3 different reasons. 3 Ds: drink, debt, and divorce.
There is actually, and that's one of the things. We're going to keep this part in, by the way, because people don't think about that. They always see the optimistic sides, don't they, in terms of you know, these things like money, the weather, this, that, and that, but there are challenges, aren't there? There are massive challenges to moving and working abroad. What have you found as being one of the challenges, or some of the challenges?
Oh, the biggest challenge, and it's one that I think everyone goes through, is missing family and friends.
Yeah.
And you kind of find yourself going through cycles of, when I first moved here, it was so exciting. You know, I was only 22 years old, 23 years old, super excited for the first 6 months, 9 months, doing brunches, going to parties, beach parties, being in the sun all the time. The teaching was kind of like the back seat. And the school I worked at the time were very much spend a bit of time getting used to living in Dubai before we start hammering you with work.
Yeah.
And that was great. It was such a nice vibe to settle into. And you get so excited that I actually really forgot I had a family, because everyone I worked with became that kind of surrogate family straight away. So rather than missing my family back home, I just replaced them. Then as, it settles in and you think, oh, I'm going to start going home for Christmas, or going home because I didn't go home for Christmas that first year. You think, I'm going back for the summer. This is going to be amazing. I get to see everyone. Then you go back, you see everyone for a few weeks, and come back to Dubai, and then realise, actually, I've got to do all that again, and I'm not going to see my family and friends. So I think it took about 12 months for me to really get that first homesick feeling. And I remember it was the same time the Manchester bombings happened.
Was that Ariana Grande?
The Ariana Grande concert, yeah. And it was really like quite hard hitting that we actually had family and friends who were at the concert, and you think this was, I remember that as the first moment. If that was maybe that was the third year that I'd actually felt really homesick. I'd have to check the dates, because that's one point that stuck in my mind. There was something big going on at home, and I'd not really thought about missing home until that point.
Yeah.
And it was that was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one you mentioned, isn't it, at the start, in terms of the job becomes secondary.
Yeah.
And I see that in a lot of the new teachers that come out, they do get so engrossed in the lifestyle. And like you mentioned, debt, it's the keeping up with the Joneses. Things are expensive. And we make it as a comparison to the UK, but you need to be aware when you're preparing for this that things are expensive, and there are people out here that have a lot and earn a lot of money. And trying to keep up appearances, you're going to lead yourself down a very dark path with that. But we see it, and we have to remind certain teachers, it's like, look, job's first.
Yeah.
Job is first, and then you can enjoy these things afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, for me, one of the biggest things that's changed now, and I think that are drawing and luring more teachers over, is 4.5 day week. Friday finishing at 12 o'clock, and then you've got all Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a big deal for if you want to do a little bit of work, no pressure, or you maybe you got a young family, spend time with the kids because they're out of school, or you're even younger or don't have any of those things, and there's lots of places catering. Yeah, there are lots of places catering though to teachers now, aren't there, as well?
Yeah, very much. I mean, the Friday afternoon pool party at Zero Gravity is it's heavily discounted if you're a teacher. And if you go there, it's teacher or cabin crew, get a big discount, and it is filled with young single people enjoying the pool, enjoying the beach, having a bit of a, party with friends. And it is filled with a certain type of, without stereotyping too much, it's filled with a certain type of person.
Yeah.
And it is that, 21 to 30s that have got maybe quite a bit of money, do like having a, living that.
In terms of a change of culture, think of it that way then. In terms of if you're a British UK expat, if that's where a Western teacher, how is moving here, the change in culture, would you see that as something that's beneficial? Is it eye-opening? Is it completely different to what we're accustomed to back in Europe?
I don't think so. I don't think the culture is too dissimilar. Particularly when you take into account the very multicultural way certain areas of inner city, Manchester or Birmingham or London is. It's not too dissimilar, because you still have, a large number of students that go and pray at break times, or you have students who might finish, some schools in the UK do finish early on Fridays now, so that pupils can go to mosque and go and pray. So in that sense, I don't think it's too dissimilar. You know, you can still do everything here that you could do back in the UK. Okay, you don't do everything as extreme. Maybe certain things are, I think you're just more, because you are more conscious of where you are in the world, you find yourself more controlled.
It's probably just different for me because this is Dubai is the first, what you class that, city I've ever lived in. I grew up in a tiny little village.
Yeah.
And then worked in and around Birmingham, but staying in the outskirts. So for me, it was eye-opening in that respect, very different. But I kind of came prepped because we had a friend who worked here, and there are people now who are looking for, right, got my jobs, sort of for trying to research and gain information about it. I was able to, at that time, what was it? Skype, I think. Skype him.
Old one.
Yeah. So Skyped him, you know, and he was talking me through it about it and about the jobs and teaching. So had that, and I've had a few people actually in the last year, of course, LinkedIn, and friends who moved out or connections on there said, "Oh, can we have a quick chat? You know, what's it like? What's the cost of things?" You know, and I think people are using that more to do their research. As well as what's available on the website. Like you do get like the mums in Dubai or expat mums, or you know, those types of different things.
Yeah. I've got on that what you were saying about the cost there. I do have to say the only research I did into cost or anything was I just typed into Google. This is, you know, 9 years ago now. Just typed into Google something like, how much does a pint of milk cost in Dubai? And it came up with a website called whatifilived.there.com.
Okay.
And this just had you just pick your place, and it would tell you a list of how much certain things were. So like how much a slice of bread, a loaf of bread would be, how much a pint of milk would be, and I was kind of converting it, thinking, what's my weekly shop now? How much could I, on the salary I've been offered, would I be able to live comfortably? And I think if you're good with money, Dubai is a brilliant place that you can really excel. You could save, if you're not so great and you do spend quite a lot, it's very, very easy to spend a lot. And like you said earlier, the keeping up with the Joneses is they've just bought a new car.
Yeah.
Do we buy a new car, or you find that, you know, people who have been settled here for a long time will be buying cars?
Yeah.
Should I be buying a car straight away, or should I rent a car? Should I do?
Yeah,
you know,
that's one of the biggest pitfalls we fell into. Like those first 3 or 4 months, it's like get here, 2 young kids, wife, and it's like, right, what do we need? And we were renting at the time. And everyone says, no, it's dead money. You should be doing this, this, and this. Yeah. And you buy a car, and that's, to be frank, the money to buy a car, if you're financing it, it's cheap. Money here
really
is cheap,
yeah.
and that's why people fall into that sort of pit, as it were. And at the time when we were out here, it was the schools, I remember this vividly, for working for a certain company, and when they had their day, financial advisors were there to, you know, meet and greet. And what you don't know. And at the time, I think my dad had passed away a couple of months ago. It was really eye-opening in terms of, right, having to organise stuff for kids, and it was like, right, I need to get my will in place, need to have investments in place, because what if everything goes tits up? And you know, and so I was like, as soon as someone approached me, I was like, oh well, yeah, we're not paying into a pension like we were in the UK, and it's like, oh, I need to have some investments. And then as you go through it, it's not until you meet registered or, you know, proper, let's say, trained individuals. Like you could have, and luckily now I think it's a lot more regulated than what it was, but those are other traps that people fall into in terms of certain companies, you know, and then going in and investing money, and it's like you're paying fees for this. And you hear so many stories of people that have gone, I'm with such and such, or this company have now gone bust, or this individual, absolute cowboy, ripped off and gone off with all your life savings, or that's the scary part. And I think for people who are moving out here, I think certain things to be aware of once you get here, because it's a whole host of things you've got to do, isn't it? Like first couple of weeks you go for your medical,
set up a bank account.
You can only do that once you've got your
Emirates ID, which you need to do your medical for.
Yeah, and then after that it's like, you want to drive, okay, you need your driving license. And all these things take periods of time, don't they? I'm trying to think what else. It's like,
I remember we had our first 3 or 4 months salary paid in cash. We didn't, because we didn't have the bank account. My very first, straight away, you used to go to the bursar and he would have a little envelope with your name on, and he'd go tick, 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 all the way through his little list of envelopes, and he'd go, there you go. Yeah. You just get a stack of 1,000 dirham notes.
I remember even then when we did, I think the first couple of months going to HSBC and just putting all this money in, thinking, gee, someone's going to rob me. Yeah. And it's like, sorry, I can't accept many more 1,000 dirham notes, because that's what it was. That's what it was. And it's like carrying this around thinking, geez. Yeah. And now it's like, I think I saw someone trying to put 80,000 dirham into a bank account in cash the other day. It's nothing, is it? And it sounds, I'm not trying to,
that is still a lot of money.
That's a hell of a lot of money, isn't it? But here,
it's like the rent for this house.
But Dubai, we would look at it and go, geez, but then you go to Dubai, no one would batter an eyelid, really, would they? No one would come up to you and go and take all your money.
There's just no, that's one of the, before we get onto that though, you're saying there's all these challenges. What kind of strategies would you have to overcome those challenges initially then?
See, I reckon I'm the type of individual, you're going to just disagree with me now, because I'm pretty organised. I write lists for things, and you're like, no, the amount of stuff I forgot today for this is terrible.
Lists.
Yeah. I'm a big one in terms of proper preparation and planning prevents poor performance. I think strategy-wise, if you're coming over here, you do your research, do your due diligence, and just have those things written out in terms of, and then speak to as many people as possible. So get that network, like LinkedIn, get yourself on LinkedIn. There are more and more people producing YouTube podcasts, things like this. So many more teachers out there with experience. And I think the Emirates ID one, if you're a teacher, is fine, but it's then going, right, what's the cost of that though for setting up my own family? Like if my wife's not working, or if she's on a separate company, I've got to pay for the kids. Those are hidden costs. And I think it's trying to do as much research, probably speak to like either people at the school, try and get a buddy, reach out to people who are, again, on your professional learning network, get as much information as possible. So you're trying to remove any of these hidden costs. I think the thing for us is then, even we came out with a stack of money knowing that we had to then buy furniture for kids, like cots and all sorts, as well as then live off that for the month. And it's so easy just to then go, you know what, everyone's going out for a brunch or food. Card. It's like, you're trying to just stick to a budget. And I think the other thing is when you're in Dubai, and my wife used to have this all the time, the weather's always nice, let's just go out. It's like, why? You can stay in. If we live here, what would you do in the UK?
It's not going anywhere.
Stay in and watch Netflix, stay in and chill, stay in and just... And now we're fine with it, because after a long enough period of time, you live here.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. I think you can just do nothing. I think a lot of people, and we've got friends who came and did 2 years and went, and I think people go, you're either here for 2 or you're here for 10. And if you can get past 2 years...
You're here for the long run.
But it's just being a little bit resilient. It's just going and being disciplined. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's easy just to splurge on money. It's easy just to, get this top. It's easy. And the discipline part for people, and it sounds strange saying it in terms of, and it doesn't matter, you could go any walk of life, but I think to make the most of this place, like there's so many opportunities. Like you've actually got to go and try them, but also be disciplined enough to go, no, this is my job first. But also it's like, I've got a budget. You know, I've got to go out and make friends, join clubs. There's so many sports. I mean, we're off doing rugby. Yeah. You could be off doing football.
American football you could take up.
What have we got now? All the Gaelic football, the Irish. I've seen people doing Aussie rules stuff here. Probably
David does Aussie rules.
So, in terms of that, the settling in part that makes it easier is get yourself involved in things.
I think that's it. And I think, as to kind of lead on what you were saying about the weather there, it's really easy to go out and do stuff, especially if you're living in an apartment.
Yeah.
And most people, when they move out here, don't go straight into a house. If you're a teacher moving to Dubai, the housing allowance or the accommodation that most schools provide is apartment living. That being said, you do tend to find yourself, I wouldn't say trapped in apartments. Over COVID, definitely living in an apartment. You were in a house at the time.
Yeah, we were lucky in that respect. But first 4 years we were out here, we were in an apartment.
Yeah.
That for me was probably the biggest difference.
Yeah. I wasn't used to living in an apartment.
Same.
And I was quite fortunate that most of the teachers I worked with lived in the same building because it was staff accommodation. Now that was great for learning the ropes and the social side of it. It was terrible for how much I ended up spending.
Yeah.
Because it's always someone's birthday. It's always a night out. There's always another brunch. There's always something to do. there's always people who want to go out. And if you're wanting to stay in and you find yourself, you're trying to make friends, you're really trying to put yourself out there because you don't want to be isolated, then it becomes very difficult to say no.
Yeah.
And it does. And that's just something to be aware of, that people won't be upset if you do say no. They're not going to remember that you weren't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I always think that about
That's because generally you've drank too much.
birthdays now.
Too much.
Yeah.
People.
They're definitely going to remember if you were there.
Yeah. Everyone's got
doing
a
something
story
bad.
to come back with the following week. And you can't escape that. That's one of the things when you say they're like family. Like there's swings, there's pros and cons to it, isn't there? It's like you do 2 years or 3 in the block, and it's great to share lifts.
Yeah.
It's easy. You can collaborate in terms of planning. You've got a
It's
support.
like living at uni again.
Yeah.
That's what it was like uni halls of residence again.
Yeah.
And it became, but the difference is you've actually got money, disposable income.
Yeah.
You've got a pool.
Gym.
So you can kind of, it is good in that sense, but you can get carried away with it.
It's challenging though if you're, let's say, middle-aged, but 30-ish. You've got a young family, well, 1 kid, 2, and you've got a party, and so you do get a variety of individuals that are in these places, don't you?
All living in the same building block.
Yeah. So that's one of the biggest differences. There are other things in terms of, let's say, the driving on the road, the way people drive here. Yeah.
I just saw a delivery driver get knocked off his bike on the way back from
Was he all right?
where I was before. He seemed fine, but it was his fault.
They are.
He was in the wrong lane at the roundabout and just went into the side of a car. You think, well, the guy in the car obviously visibly upset.
Yeah.
Because my car's just been dinged, but also the guy on the bike. I mean,
You
it's just
don't drive around wanting to hit people, do you?
No,
but the standard of driving here is
not great.
Yeah, it's very different in terms of that.
I'd say that's my biggest bugbear in Dubai. I think that is the top of my list of things that really miff me. I wouldn't say it really upsets me, but you just always have to be aware on the roads. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I think the biggest one. I think Kerry said this over Christmas, and be very honest with the people who are watching and
Kerry's
listening to
your
this.
wife.
So yeah, Kerry is my wife, but it is actually people's manners.
Yeah.
And if you are a UK expat listening to this, Brits, I believe, are some of the worst.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
please come out here and say please.
Yeah. And just in terms of how they treat people.
And I agree with that.
And it's being very honest about it. You are going to get people out here who are earning a lot of money, potentially more money than they would have earned in their home country job. And actually, it changes their behaviour. It changes how they treat people.
Agreed.
You will see it, and I'll be very frank, you will see it in schools. Not too much, but there are times when parents
more than the teaching staff.
So parents will speak to you and potentially address you in a way like you would in any independent school of, well, we pay the fees until we pay your wages. And the demand and expectation therefore on you, whether it's emails at certain times or meetings at certain times, and you will get CEOs and principals and leaders of company, and that's what they are, companies, who kind of, I remember when I first got here, referred to students as clients.
Yeah.
The clients. And that's one thing. I was speaking with a friend who started at GEMS.
Yeah.
And they have this big...
GEMS, massive organisation.
The biggest organisation. A lot of people who move out here teaching-wise will start at a GEMS company. And they have this really huge kind of... I can't think what the actual term for it is, but induction day. And
it's more of an induction week.
Well, the day itself, the one that's at the Atlantis. And they get all the new staff members.
Oh, it's like a conference for new staff, would you say?
For new staff. But he was and he was the same as me to start with. He goes, I'm just not corporate. And a lot of teachers that come out here, one of the biggest differences is, unless you've really worked at a chain of independent schools, or I can't even say in academies like this.
Not really. No, academies are always still with the root of the child.
Yeah, they're very corporate. Bums on seats, numbers of students in schools, and sometimes...
Pass rates.
Yeah. To the detriment maybe of health and safety or space. Like for me as a scientist, it's like someone's going to say, you need to have 28 kids in your classroom. I was like, okay, there's space for them, do I have enough equipment to do it? And for me as one teacher, can I safely deliver that lesson? Those are some of the biggest differences. Even, I don't know, even state schools UK, okay, you get some of that, but
32, 33 students in a class though.
Yeah.
But bigger classrooms maybe.
Potentially. And it's not always, but that's just one thing in terms of differences to be prepared for. It's not always the gleaning, you walk in through the reception and it's perception, it's how it looks. Yeah. Underneath the surface, every school is the same. Every school is going to have issues. No school is perfect. And it's just knowing that there are these differences, even though it's slightly subtle, that you kind of come out here thinking, this school's outstanding. And this was what I got. Internationally outstanding school. And I was coming from a top 30 grammar school in the UK. You know, and this was 2015, where 82%, 84% cohort A star to B.
Yeah.
And okay, it's grammar, it's selective, I get it. But we were outstanding. That's my perception of outstanding. And so you come over and it's like, this isn't what I would say. And that's one of the biggest differences. I know the KHDA kind of and DSIB look to follow, and people say they follow Ofsted to some extent.
KHDA being the governing board, essentially are Ofsted.
Dubai Schools Inspection Bureau, DSIB. I did a video on that recently, just in case. Go and check that out.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. But that for me is some of the differences. And then the working hours come into it.
Like you touched on it before about emails at all hours, or parents wanting to get information from you at times that might not be the most appropriate. You might be delivering a lesson, for example, and parents I've had it before. It doesn't happen too often now, but I have had it before where the parents have been walking down the corridor. Yeah. I'm delivering a lesson and a parent knocks on the door. Can we have a chat? No, I'm drawing a volcano on the board, like, not appropriate. Yeah. That happens way more often. That would never happen in my school in the UK.
I don't think it would happen now. Years gone by, I've had that parent waiting outside the classroom because they used to just allow parents to walk through. Now it wouldn't happen. I think a lot of the schools, ours, whereas in terms of they're just starting now to put these, like the lanyard, the magnetic locks on doors, so that parents can't just.
It's becoming better.
Security is becoming better. I remember that to start with. There was like there was a cafe in the school.
So we still have a cafe in the school.
Lots of schools do, and there's a big change. But parents would sit around, and actually, in some ways, good community.
Good for the community.
But you will see, and therefore it's easier, and in some ways then it's benefit. You need to get.
Yeah, it does. I feel for us, it really helps build that ethos of community in a very small school.
Because if you also need to get hold of a parent, it's like, hey, let's come in and have a chat. Parents are really good at doing that. And those are a couple of things I think that kind of come with it in terms of comparing it to it anyway. But we're kind of looking out the window now, January-wise. You mentioned the weather. We're mentioning recruitment season. It is January.
It's cold.
My God. I was at rugby yesterday in Allain. Now, I luckily avoided all the weather, all the rain. So yesterday, which was about the 8th, I think it was. What's the date today? Yeah, the 7th.
7th.
The rain, the thunderstorms were horrendous.
I drive an open-top Jeep. I will leave it there.
Enough said. I did wonder why your car wasn't around today.
Yeah, it's not in the driveway.
But once we get past that point, that's the first time I've been cold. I had a hoodie on, shorts, but it was cold.
I've had to order a load of tracksuits to walk the dog in the morning.
This is Dubai problems. That's now just giving in to Dubai problems, basically.
Yeah. 5 a.m. up to walk the dog, because we do start school here very, very early. I think we have to be on site at 7:15.
Yeah, same.
So, and I actually work. My school is around a 40-minute drive from where I live currently, and so this means I'm leaving home at 6:30, probably and usually a bit earlier. So walking the dog, it's dark. Going out in the mornings, it used to just be it helps taking him out that early in the summer, because then it's too hot. But now it is pair of trackies, hood up.
That's the thing that I remember. The weather. What was probably the first thing I remember when I landed? August 20th, 2015. Walked straight out of the airport, and I'd never been to Dubai before. And some people might go, "You moved to a country you've never been to." It's like
I was in the same boat. Yeah.
And literally, doors open, and you are hit. It's like being hit in the face with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. It's hot. It's like walking through a veil.
Yeah.
I always thought, like if you ever go to the freezer room in Costco, I don't know if you had one of those in Birmingham.
And those things hanging down.
And they had the things hanging down, and you walk in and it just hit you
as
a cold. But it was like the complete opposite of that. You walk, as soon as those doors open at the airport, and you step out to where the taxi rank is at DXB, and it's just...
can't breathe.
And you're instantly wet.
Yeah. That's the thing. People think that's so hot and it's desert. It's going to be such dry heat, and it's the complete opposite. Like...
It's got to be to do with the cars and the...
something. It's like, that's one of the biggest things to overcome. And I like a suit. I do like a suit. So for me, I was like, I don't know if I can't manage a jacket. But then at the other time, I was like, I've got to have a jacket on to hide my sweat patches. Yeah, it's so bad. And then guys are like, no, you just wear a t-shirt underneath your shirt. I'm like, no, that looks weird.
It's even warmer.
Yeah, I'm even hotter, and it just doesn't. But people do it, and it's overcoming that, not just in a professional capacity, because you want to look professional, shirt, tie. I'd have a jacket on. If I'm doing a practical, I'd take it off or moving around. But meeting parents, it's like I'm professional, even though my demeanor at the moment probably doesn't go for that. Someone said this to me, just tangent off. Kerry said this to me. She's like, do you think in terms of if you wanted to get a promotion in a school and be SLT assistant, whatever it is, it's like, do you reckon do you think you look the part? She said, do you think the reason why, do you think you're not because you don't look it?
Well, that's a question for the age, isn't it? Yeah. I've always been told you dress for the job you want, not the job you've got. So if you were to dress in a suit, 3-piece suit, but I mean, if I was a head teacher, I would not wear a 3-piece suit.
No, I'd wear a suit, but she's like, cut your hair. Needs cutting. Doesn't look professional, doesn't look smart.
I don't know.
Whereas here, I don't know, the beard is a big thing here. I remember going to the barbers, went take it off, and they were like, so why? It's like, no.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the beard is a big thing in the culture.
I remember starting in Dubai, and I was clean shaven. I think when I started with you, I was clean shaven.
That's because you couldn't grow a beard.
And I couldn't fit. It's true though. I physically could not grow a beard. I wasn't old enough to be able to grow a beard yet. And that was my second school in Dubai, and it still couldn't happen. And eventually, I went and funny story. I used to go to the barbers across the road from where I lived.
Yeah.
And one time I said to the guy, look, what can I do to grow this beard? And he said, you have a beard. It's just very white, very fair. And he dyed it for me. And since that point, it's just been darker and...
Happy days.
So maybe it's the same beard.
Maybe it is. Mine the other day when I went to get shaved for New Year's Eve said, sir, we'd take off the white stripes here. Yeah. It's like, oh, thanks. Just Santa Claus coming through.
I just FYI, I don't dye my beard now.
No.
Just naturally.
I don't dye. Mine's just got two-tone to it. It's terrible. And my hair.
It's a bit of flavour, salt and pepper.
That's it. Going
seasoning.
for the mature dad look. That's obviously what it is for it.
But when you say there, yes, I do think out here as well, especially if you're in a corporate school, so GEMS, Talim, those organisations, it does seem to be to reach a certain level, you do have to look
your face
the
fits.
part. You need to have the approachability with parents, with clients, essentially. You need to have that demeanour around you that is a little more professional, something that we can present to shareholders as much as to parents, and someone that does fit to get in those schools. But then you have much more of the independent schools that are... So I work for an independent school, and it's much more relaxed than it ever was when I worked in corporate teaching. Yeah. For example, in terms of the dress code, we have dress down Fridays. Every Friday is a t-shirt and jeans. I mean, not a t-shirt for me, but unfortunately...
That's another thing, isn't it? Whereas, again, when we first moved out, I don't think I've had any other tattoos, but they were taboo. It was like, I remember being told for a sports day, like, I know you cover it up, wear something, just cover it up.
I wear skins, Always.
Whereas now, it's like, no, sports days at school, I wear my shorts. I think it depends on the extent of them, doesn't it? Like, you are heavily tattooed.
Yeah, I am. My legs are covered, my arms are covered.
But it's not as frowned upon as it once was.
No. And very much earrings for guys used to be quite taboo. And I've always had my ears pierced since I was about 10. So I think moving out here as a that was one of my biggest fears, I think, before moving here, for anyone prospectively moving out here, this was nearly 10 years ago. Tattoos were, as you said, taboo. Now, don't worry about it.
No.
We have PE teachers who wear shorts all the time, you know, tattoos out. One's got a sleeve, I'm sure. And no one really questions it anymore.
No. So the things are changing with it, aren't they, in terms of what is that acceptable demeanour and what isn't. So, but it doesn't help, let's say, with the weather.
Yeah,
when we're talking about it and being warm, when you get into that point, you've got those out, and you can make you very much aware of it, can't it? And it's that people go, we used to stay for summer. I don't mind it. Like we travel some, stay some, because of Kerry's job. My wife's not a teacher. For those of you who follow, she's an interior designer, so her holidays are very different to ours. But we would stay, could put the girls in camp. So for family, there are summer camps that happen here. And everyone goes, oh my God, how can you stay? How can you cope in that heat? And it's 45 degrees.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
And I don't mind it because...
You just stay in the house.
Exactly. It's only hot when you go from the car through the garage or the car park in the mall. Everywhere else, air conditioned. You know,
2 minutes max. I mean, for those, like we said, apartment living, the apartment car parks are a little warmer than if you do have a driveway, and you can
longer
just
distance
step
to
out.
go. Yeah,
that walk used to be.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. Even the years gone by, these GCC cars, when the remotes will trigger the car to start, and the AC comes on before you're even there. So there's loads of ways to adjust in terms of you just got to get used to it. Like, there's no other way really. It's it's going to be hot. Humidity, just get appropriate clothes, have spare clothes, perfumes, deodorants, whatever it may be.
Try not to wear one of the big things. I was a big advocate of skinny jeans that they quickly left.
It took me, I think, for the first even 2 years of being here, maybe even the third, even when we went out anywhere, I never wore trousers. So it's always still hot, just shorts.
And you do acclimatise, you do become more accustomed to it.
Like now, we play touch rugby every Sunday morning in the summer, like today, and 33 degrees, 100% humidity is what it reads off at sometimes.
Is that what it...
In the summer.
In the summer,
yeah. Still play. And
what was it today? Was it chilly today?
Today was cold. Yeah. Today was cold. It was like 18 degrees, overcast. Well,
and we say, but what you've got to understand for those, if anyone is listening in the UK, 18 degrees back in the UK is where you would see people walking down the street with no top on. Beer gardens would be full. It would be
here.
That kind of here, 18 degrees. Shivering. You see people, hoodies, tracksuits. The kids are all wearing jumpers in the classroom. So why is the AC on?
It's not. It's just cold.
Just
Kerry's
relax, man.
Kerry from a northern. She acclimatised a lot quicker. She was just jeans, jumper all the time. Nah, it's crazy.
Yeah, as a northerner, no.
No, I'd be like, That's the one thing I do love about here in terms of adjusting to it is actually just shorts and t-shirts all year round.
Everyone.
Like, Christmas Eve.
We're both in shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah. Christmas Eve, we were outside in the fire pit having s'mores. Nice. It was amazing. And again, it's country, but it's those types of things that the weather allows you to do.
Yeah. New Year's Eve in the desert, watching the fireworks.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, and that's just some of the differences we get in terms of the culture of the city and what it affords you to do. I think there's going to be people out there watching who are going to be either want to apply or have got their jobs potentially already in terms of the classroom. Like we talked about some of the differences, classroom, I mean, big thing, tech, most definitely. I think
you need to be on your EdTech, and you are way more.
Oh, I love
You're leading the way in that. I'd say even for a large number of people, you've run CPD sessions for other schools and things like that, and we were at the Jess conference, and I think something we were talking about recently was. I think it was today on this. We were talking about AI, was it?
Yeah, the ChatGPT at the start.
Yeah. So, that is becoming massive, especially using gadgets and using things in the classroom. And
it's also the fact that kids have them. Device, especially secondary school. And they start, both my daughters, so they're year 3, year 4, iPads. And they use them, and they really do use them as a tool for learning, and they're really good with them. They come to secondary, there's so much you can do. So in terms of the development of your teaching, like mine, and this worries me, like about if I ever wanted to go back to the UK and teach.
Would everyone have a device?
Because you get so accustomed to it, like, and it allows you to do so much, like cover work. And I'll talk about this in another video at some point in the future, but Loom, I love Loom. Loom is like a screen record, but your camera kicks in, you can record your...
And you're in the bottom corner,
Used it loads of times. If I can't do meetings at school with the department, I'll do that.
I think I learned that from you in a CPD.
Probably,
a few years ago, maybe.
But for cover work, sorry guys, can't come in today. I'm just going to do a quick 4 or 5 minute video. Works on Teams, works on OneNote.
That's it, Teams. I think Teams is unbelievable as a learning platform.
Yeah.
Purely for the dissemination of information, but also a storage system for revision. We use, even if I don't use it for worksheets or anything that we're doing in class, because my school is trying to move away from students being on devices as much in classrooms following the pandemic. But I would keep all of my, for students absent, okay, well, the work is on Teams for you to catch up. You complete it, and then I'll mark it for you.
Annoys me the most. It's like, sir, I wasn't here for the lesson. You know all the works on OneNote, don't you, or Teams? And they're like, it's like you didn't do it. And that's the thing.
How long have you been away for?
How long have you taught you? Oh, yeah, sir. You know, that's kind of a good thing and a bad thing with it, isn't it? In terms of you can do it from anywhere, anytime, and that's Dubai in a nutshell. Through why COVID was so good, in terms
because people are everywhere all the time anyway.
You have so many people now in the country who are remote working, remote learning. And they're actually, some of the schools here are now going, right, we're just going to do remote learning. We're going to offer those to people who are traveling around. And that's one of the biggest differences for me, like the tech teaching of how I can use it, what I can do with it, and the fact my students have access to it. The nationalities in school, we said you got 100. I
think if we include the primary school for ours, I think the official number is 100. We say we have 100 nationalities.
I think we're just over sort of 30 to 40.
Yeah.
But that's it. We're saying inner city school teaching, you have a mix of, don't you?
I mean, back in the UK, I worked in an inner city school and we had a big mix of nationalities.
Yeah.
Very, very big.
And that's the thing, you get it here, because I think one of the misconceptions is you're coming out and it's like every parent or every child has money. That isn't the case.
No, that is not true.
And there is some
an awful lot, and some really don't.
No, they don't. And there is a large diversity. There is a big cultural difference, in terms of ability, in terms of finance. And that's one of the things of being in a globalised city and a globalised classroom. And that's what it's about, our international classroom. Some of the things you're going to experience of that is EAL. There is EAL, English is additional, for those who maybe not. But, even SEND, again, misconception. People are moving out and going, oh, no, somehow wealth or prosperity
means that everyone speaks English and no one's got any learning difficulties. Really, everyone can read and write. No, they can't.
No.
I think one of the big things, though, just going back onto EdTech that you were talking about, is we've seen with the conflict going on currently, we've seen a massive influx of Russian native speakers. And one of the biggest things I've been using that I've been really, really advocating, I think, is the subtitles on PowerPoint.
Yeah,
they are unreal. You just talk and you teach your lesson normally, and subtitles come up at the bottom of your PowerPoints. What more do you want?
Someone
tip
did
for anyone.
Yeah, actually, we had that. Someone showed us that again in school last week. It was by accident as well, because they had the PowerPoint on, and someone was talking, and it's like,
and it just comes up at the bottom. Yeah, it's great. Even so, we've been using it. I've been using it heavily for Russian. We've just had a Japanese student join, and apparently, so the Russian, the translation is not great because of the way that our grammar is.
Okay, yeah.
So it doesn't translate brilliantly, but it's something. It helps. It does support some students.
That's it.
The Japanese apparently works really, really
Amazing. Well. A lot of ours are using, so from notes and information, and that's one of the things good about digital. Copy it into Google Translate.
Google Translate, you can do handwritten stuff and it copies it. It's brilliant. On Google, is it Google Lens?
I've not tried that.
It's really good, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, these are the ones online doing it. So it's just those little things, but things to be aware of. Like, it's not a walk in the park. A lot of people over the last year have been posting that about teaching in Dubai. It's like, it is not just
what it used to be, but even not easy.
No, that's it. The misconception, if you're coming out here, it's like there are perks as a hub, a travel hub in terms of meeting, professional development. As I would say, it's a big, small city.
Yeah.
It sounds like
we could probably do a full session on what CPD is like in
But
Dubai.
that network, and when we talked about earlier about generating, getting involved in a learning network or a professional learning network or just someone to touch base with, there's so many opportunities for development, and it's even probably expected, isn't it, to some extent? And
yeah, I think our head has a big philosophy that CPD, particularly for at the teacher level, if you want to be better, it is kind of the onus is on you to go out and find it. But it is so easy because it is so easy to find in Dubai.
Yeah.
There's always a conference. There's always teach meets or the you know what I'm talking about.
The Collab UAE
Collab,
stuff.
Collab UAE. There's always opportunities for growth. We have things like the MPQ.
Infinite learning, do it, and then again, just go on to LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I love it. And you'll find someone going to Twitter. Like even that Twitter here is still a big thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't have all the things, let's say from the UK perspective, like in terms of the research ed meets and things like that they do, but it's really good. Professional development. You will come and you will learn a lot and be exposed to a lot and really develop as a teacher. So yeah, wow. I think we've pretty much covered a lot of the things we wanted to, haven't we, in terms of that.
We've covered a lot. It's a whistle-stop tour.
Yeah. But hopefully, if you're watching this, obviously it's our first one. We're not without teething problems.
Rustic is the word I would use.
Okay, you go for rustic.
Like a bread.
It can only get better. I think we've done all right as a starting point.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we've done all right. So if you have managed to last to the end, first of all, well done. Maybe with a stiff drink, I don't know, 40-minute drive, there you go.
40-minute drive.
40-minute drive to school, you could be done with this. But thank you ever so much for joining us for this first episode of the International Classroom. We hope you found it useful and informative for someone who is either here, brand new in, or again looking to come and work and teach in Dubai, in the UAE. And we've covered probably some of the benefits and I think also the challenges of being here. We've got, let's say, benefits in terms of the weather, probably the packages, the experience, culture, PD as a travel hub. There's lots of good things, isn't there?
Loads. And we could talk about this at length. Just the benefits. We could do a full episode on the benefits.
Yeah.
We could do a full episode on the issues. That wouldn't be a very nice one to listen to.
No, I don't. I think we'd probably get taken off actually. But you got to have unbiased. That's what we want to be. I was listening to a podcast that had Neil deGrasse Tyson on. Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. Love that podcast. But he had Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was like, as a scientist and generally, it's not just a case of being, unbiased and coming at it from one angle. I've got to cover it from every angle.
Yeah. And
it's important for teachers to know and families to know. Like, it isn't just sunshine and rainbows here. It's not just the Candyland and fairy dust of things.
No,
there's challenges.
It's about as close as I've ever been to sunshine and rainbows.
When it rains, like yesterday, there's definitely rainbows. But I think it just goes to show there is a lot to consider if you're thinking of moving to teach in Dubai. But I think what we've learned from this is that with the right preparation and with the right mindset, the rewards of living and working in this city can be truly enriching. So
absolutely.
Thank you ever so much. We hope you will join us again for the next episode and for future episodes of the International Classroom, where hopefully we're going to get to share a little bit more insights and some of our own experiences and maybe some other educators' experiences of what it's like living and working in the UAE. So until next time, take care and happy teaching.
Thank you very much.
Always want to get the last word in, don't you?
I'll try.